to tune in for this first one. But hello, everyone. Welcome to Recall Japan. My name is Joshua Joshi Howard, and I'm joined here by Kevin KMT Miller. How are you doing today, Kevin?
I'm good. I'm good. I watched the pre-show yesterday for LGL. Did you catch that?
I went and looked at a bunch of screenshots, but I'll be
Oh yeah,
honest, I
sorry.
understood maybe 20% of it.
I keep forgetting, but yeah. We could talk about that at the end of the show because I think the cast
Yeah.
has brought up a lot of interesting points. But yeah, so this is I guess episode 1 of our talk show for Recall Japan. So this is where we'll be talking about LGL and all the cool Japanese League of Legends events that's going on in Japan. So I guess to start it off, for our pre-show we'll
Yeah.
talking about the power rankings.
Let's go ahead and
Yesterday,
introduce ourselves so that
oh yeah, that's
anybody
true.
who is
We
not
should
familiar
introduce
with either of us
ourselves.
has an opportunity.
So I guess I'll introduce
Go ahead.
myself and we can introduce each other, or introduce ourselves that way. So I'm Kevin. I've been around in like League of Legends in Japan for about 3 years now. I was coaching, managing, owning a team in Challenger Series, and I had a brief stint in the LGL. I was on V3, Dragonfly Gaming, and Overdrive, and now I'm just freelance content creator, I guess. So that's
Woohoo.
that's what I'm up to. What about you?
Hey everyone, I'm Josh. Most of you probably know me as Joshi TV. I do a lot of color casting and analyst work here in the United States for a lot of different teams and organizations, but you're probably mostly familiar with me because I am the LJL guy on Reddit. So if you ever see something about some kind of article that was written in English, it's almost always me. But yeah, before we get too far forward, I did want to say something real quick for any of our Japanese audience, and I apologize in advance for everything I'm about to butcher. So here we go. はじめまして。僕はジャシュア・ハルです。日本語を話すことが下手だから、英語だけで喋ります。でも、質問があれば答えてみます。よろしくお願いします。
Oh damn, that's pretty good. Have you been studying Japanese?
I am partly Japanese, actually.
Oh,
My
okay.
grandmother was born in Tokyo, and she moved to the United States. So I do speak a little bit. They taught me when I was growing up, and then I relearned a lot of it in high school. And now, because I do it so rarely, I mean, I speak Japanese so rarely at this point. I don't think you understand. That probably took me about 20 minutes of prep work just to get that ready to go.
So you're writing down a script, thinking about how to say all that, but I mean,
Yeah.
it sounded nice. It sounded good. Your camera keeps
Thank
out
you.
focusing, like auto unfocusing.
All right, I'll
So
try to keep my head still.
okay, I don't know what's doing that, but it's okay. I think it's fine. As long as we
Yeah.
can hear you. So okay, I guess we could start with the show. So I'm pretty sure everyone knows who's number one in LGL, who we will predict to be number one by the end of the season, and probably win the LGL, and that's Den Nation Focus Me. I mean, they kept the same roster. They didn't add any subs to my knowledge. They didn't change coaching staff, so it's pretty much the same team. But I
Yeah.
want to ask you this: who do you think is the best player on Den Nation?
Recency bias probably is going to mean that right now, I think it's mostly between Utapon and Evie.
Yeah.
And I think the big reason why I would say that is one, Utapon was basically making a highlight reel of the LJL last split, and he looked good every single game. And we'll get into this a little bit more, but I think part of it is, well, Evie is definitely a good top laner.
Mm-hmm.
I think he is definitely head and shoulders above just about everybody else in the league right now, and we'll talk more about that. But I just don't think that the top lane talent pool is nearly as deep in Japan as some of the other roles.
Yeah, I can
So we'll
agree
get
with that.
yeah.
I would personally pick Utapon just because I've seen him at international events and I've thought he always did like really well. Whereas Evie, like some games he does really well and some games he doesn't. And just because he's the best top lane in Japan, I wouldn't make him the best overall player. Because I feel
Yeah,
like Utapon has a lot of like standout performances. But yeah,
yeah, and I think Gang makes him look even better than he already
that's true.
is,
That's true.
simply because back when Utapon and Vivid were playing together, they were an incredibly lane dominant pair. And
Hmm.
Gang coming in, he's not quite as lane dominant. He doesn't go for as many kills in lane, but he has a little bit more of the roaming style and is able to establish vision to allow Utapon to play more aggressively. So
Yeah.
it really ends up pairing pretty well. And honestly, I mean, you already said it, they didn't change anybody on their team. I don't think there's any question in anybody's mind that they are the heavy favorites going into the summer split.
Yeah, for sure. I think the nation should win. I mean, they have the highest chance of winning. I'm not going to say they'll win 100%, but it's probably up there, like 70, 80% chance of winning. Unless if these
Yeah,
other teams can like pull something out that I won't be expecting. What I like about
yeah.
Dead Nation is that I think it's the only team in Japan that you can say that the Koreans on the team might be holding back Dead Nation. Like I was just thinking about like who are the best players on Dead Nation. You think of like Evi, Yutapon. Like you don't go to Steel or Gang. So I would say like their star players are like Japanese, and that's really rare to have in Japan. To have your star players be
Yeah,
the Japanese players.
yeah. I mean, we'll get to this at a later point, I'm sure, but there are some interesting hot takes I'm sure we could both come up with. But I think we should start going a little bit further down the
Okay.
power rankings, and we the way that we decided to do this was that we're going to be going down Kevin's power rankings from 1 to 8, and then after he gives who he thinks is at each rank, I'll pick or I'll talk about where I put that team, and we can talk about a little bit about why um, we might have agreed or disagreed on exactly where they're going. So go ahead.
Okay, so for number 2, I have Sengoku Gaming. Surprise, surprise.
Ooh,
I'm on the Sengoku hype train. I'm excited. Like, I'm going all
yeah,
in on this team. Like, this is
yeah.
the team that I think has a chance of actually maybe being Dead Nation, but it's not, like, they're not going to, like, have a good chance, but they do have a chance.
Yeah, I think Sengoku Gaming has a lot to show. They got fourth last split after taking a game off of all the top teams, but you'll find this as we keep doing this. It is very hard to get me onto a hype train. I actually have them listed as number 4.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, so I definitely think Blank coming in is very, very good. There's every single opportunity for him to take control, and we all know we watched him in a lot of other regions being a very aggressive jungler. And when you add Pumandu onto what I already thought was the coaches split last time in Maple Street, you have a very strong set of coaching staff come together. But I worry that Pumandu, he's only ever served behind other coaches. On SKT, he was behind Koma. On IG, he was behind Mafa. And ever since then, he's worked for Misfits, and they didn't have a particularly good split.
Yeah.
So the question I have is, Pumandu has had a lot of success, but I'm not sure how much I can attribute to Pumandu as the coach.
Yeah, Pumandu is a big question mark for me because I haven't seen him do anything. Like, when besides SKT, he hasn't had, like, a good track record. Like, I feel like a lot of teams he's been on has been like mediocre or maybe straight out bad if you include Misfits. So I'm not too hype on the Pumandu train. Like, I know people respect him as a good, like, knowledgeable player, knowledgeable coach. But I don't know if he has that kind of like coaching ability that will take Sengoku to the next level. But I think the combination with Maple Street, Pumandu, and having like a strong player on the team, like such as Blank, someone with that much experience and knowledge, will help Sengoku get that second place spot above all these other
Hmm.
teams.
They still have Pascal as well, right? So
I
they have
believe
like
so. They
three
still
big
have him as an
coaches.
analyst. They got a lot of staff. They have a translator on board. I know Taka can speak English and Japanese, so he helps out with Maple. They have a Korean and Japanese translator. They have Pumandu, so he can directly communicate with these players. And they have Pascal,
Hmm.
who's like an analyst. I don't think he's in Japan, but he gives them information.
Okay.
So they have a pretty big like staff, like a support staff behind the players. So I'm
Do you
excited.
worry? Do you worry that this might be a situation of having too many cooks in the kitchen? Right? Are you familiar with that phrase?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It depends on Pumandu's role, because I feel like he's the only player that would get 100% of the respect in LGL. Like, I don't think there's anyone that would talk back to Pumandu. You know, like world champion, Like he's been on a world championship team, like years of experience. So if Pumandu can like lead the team, I don't think that would be a problem. The only question mark I
Yeah.
do have is their top laner, because if they don't use Dongxu, the new guy, or if they use Rhea, like I don't know who would be better, because Dongxu is like a rookie.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. You looked at the rest of Sengoku Gaming, and obviously, I had Odigi as my rookie of the split last time. He looked very good, and
Yeah,
I feel like a lot of the team's success could be attributed to him last split. And I don't. I mean, I have no reason to think that'll be any different this time. He's still got the same support, but I'll be honest. Watching Taka and Rhea play last split, they basically held their lanes. They weren't doing
hmm,
anything particularly exciting, and when Smile was playing, the top half of the map was. They very much recognized that they were kind of there to make Odigi look better, and it does make me a little bit worried that you're going to be replacing Rhea, who did that job totally fine, and going to be instead putting in Donshu, who you already mentioned is a rookie. Neither of us have a whole lot of information about him, and
yeah.
I worry how he's going to stack up to all the other top players in the region.
Yeah, it's gonna be the top lane is the biggest question mark. I mean, it was Taka and Raina's first split ever in the LGL, so I can excuse some of their like mistakes. Like, I'm fine with keeping them on because rookie talent. You're gonna try to build up on that, but I don't know. I just see like it as an upgrade in jungle and maybe an upgrade in top. It's really questionable. We don't know. I've never seen him play, so I can't say it is an upgrade. But I'd rather take that chance at it could be an upgrade.
Yeah,
But it's really like
I think
worrying.
one thing that I always think is like, how confident are you in their second place? Because I definitely know when I put them currently in slot number 4, I think realistically this team could be anywhere from about 2 to 6 based on how everything has shaken out thus far.
I wouldn't say 2 to 6. I would say the lowest I can see Sengoku placing is probably fourth. Like I don't see them being that bad, unless if
Hmm.
like they could have a really bad season if like all the players like I don't know if Blank does like a temper tantrum just as I'm not practicing like you guys are terrible and just like quits, then I could see them doing poorly. But I think realistically they would be a playoff team, like top 3 in
Yeah.
Japan. Like
I mean, I just kind of want to compare Blank in particular to Bang, who's been playing in the LCS and more recently LCS Academy. And I mean, he has not been doing well. Piglet also did not do well when he came over to the LCS. And it's not because they're bad players. I mean, they both have world championships
mm,
underneath their belt, but sometimes something just doesn't quite work out, and so that's why I'm wondering. Like, again, going back to Bang, he is on a bottom tier team right now.
yeah.
Arrow, very similar thing. He is a very celebrated player from Korea. Once he came to the United States, has not really been performing. So there's just kind of this history of all these really good players. Once you put them in a team environment they're not used to, not performing to the same level that you would expect.
Yeah, I can see that, but I would feel like the culture in Japan and Korea is very similar. So I don't think it like that's why you see a lot of Koreans come to Japan and they don't seem to struggle as much because I feel like it's a
Hmm.
more culture fit. And in America it's a very big culture change compared to like Korea. So I feel like and
Yeah,
also the language barrier and all that stuff, but having a Korean coach and a like Japanese to Korean translator and like Korean players on the team, I feel like that would help him ease into it a lot more
yeah,
than compared to like say North America.
yeah. I mean, we'll have to see how they end up doing. I think they have a lot of hype behind them. They clearly have a lot more money this split than they did last
Yeah.
split to throw around. But before we go too far, I think we can start moving on to our next
Okay.
team in just a moment. But I want to make sure, do you have this auto archived or are you recording it so that we'll be able to
Uh
upload it later?
yeah, I'm recording it right now. So
Okay,
we'll be able
perfect.
to upload this onto YouTube after we're done with it or done with the episode.
Cool.
Okay.
Just wanted to say if you're watching the stream already and you do have questions, I had already briefly mentioned I don't speak Japanese particularly well. Kevin definitely speaks better than I do, but if you send us a message on Twitter to either one of us. Our names are right below right here with the hashtag Recall Japan. We'll definitely see it and we'll try to answer it towards the end of the episode or in a future episode. So,
Eh.
with that said, who's your number three?
So I have USG at number 3, which is like the problem with like this is that 2 through 8. I feel like you could put them like you could move them around a little bit, and the list will still make sense. And
Yeah.
I'm only putting USG here that in the case that Opperman comes back in a reasonable amount of time. Like if he's gone for most of the season, I don't think USG will be this high up. But I think USG has a very solid like core. They have really good players and mid and jungle, and their bot lane is pretty solid. Even though they didn't look too good last season, hopefully they turn it around. That's I
Hmm.
feel like the bot lane is probably the weakest part of this team. Even though Keymaker and NT looked really good individually on separate teams, but when they came together, they didn't look too great.
Yeah. I think we're both in a similar spot. It sounds like we both ranked them with the assumption that Opperman will be coming back. Because I have them ranked number two. Actually,
Okay.
I think these guys, especially if Opperman comes back, they looked good. They weren't as consistent as Crest Gaming Act last split, but they were. I think they had higher peaks. And kind of go back to your spot before. Definitely, I mean Dasher. I think he is in contention. I don't think it's clear, but I think he's in contention for currently the best player in the LJL. There
Oh
was
wow.
one
Okay.
notable game. There was one game in particular where he basically solo carried against Detonation Focus Me, and I made some clips at some point where Utapone just jumped out and just basically 100-0 to his Zoe, and it's like those tiny moments that if those hadn't happened, I think Dasher would have nearly single-handedly won the game. Um, he's definitely a very strong player. Tussle has a long track record. Um, but you already touched on it. Arumik coming in for Opperman. From what I've seen from Arumik on social media, he seems like a very happy guy. Like he seems to have
Hmm.
a very upbeat personality overall. But I haven't seen him play before, and
Yeah.
that's the
I
important
mean,
part.
yeah. Like, I mean, you can be as happy as you want, but if you're not that good, I don't know. Like that's the problem with like, cause he played in the Challenger series a bit, and he wasn't on like top teams except for Akihabara and Count. That was the latest team he played for, and I guess he looked
Mhm.
okay, but I believe he played against I think it was V3 in the relegation match, and he had to play against Cog, and I don't think he
Yeah.
looked that great against someone like that. So it's gonna be worrying that he's already like Opperman can hold his own. So if Opperman can't hold his own, that's going to be a really big problem for this team.
Yeah, I mean, in his defense, like Akihabara going up against V3, it was going up against Cog and Wyvern, who I mean, Wyvern is absolutely a feast or famine player. If he
Hmm.
pops off, he pops off.
Yeah.
And then we've also seen he's a very emotional player too, right? When he gets behind, he's one of the players that you go to the post game camera and he's basically crying.
Hmm.
But when he's in a good mood, he is also popping off. And so when you get 3-0'd because Cog and Wyvern are having a good day, I'm not sure that tells us a whole lot about how Armik will actually play. So I mean, again, I have my rankings based on Optimum coming back because I
Hmm.
think he will be a very like this team was good. This team will be good, especially with that core roster. And as you said, if Armik can at least hold his own and allow the rest of the map to work well, it might not even matter that Optimum's gone.
That's true. I would want to for USC to be this high. I would want to see their bot lane improve. Like the reason why I have them up this high is because I look at the players and I see really good players in almost every position. So, but the bot lane last season was an issue, and I think that was what was holding them back. But I think we're done with USG. I think we can go
Yeah.
on to this next team, which I think will be very spicy. Because
Ooh.
I
All
have
right.
V3 at number 4 again. And
Gotcha.
last season, I had them at number 4. They didn't do so well. But this season, I'm like, oh, the upgrade AD. I guess I could put him at number 4 again. But I don't know. I
Yeah.
worry about their
Well,
mid and jungle. Like I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, go ahead and keep talking. I wanna look for what my old power ranking was at the
Okay.
beginning of Spring Split.
Okay, so V3 has they kept Paz in top lane, which is good. They brought in Baby, who was formerly on Smash It Down. Then he went to Hong Kong, and I think he played for HQ. No, not Hong Kong, Taiwan. And he played for HQ, and he lost like every game. I looked at his match history. He has like a bunch of red lines recently. So I don't know why they brought him on. Like that seems kind of like a red flag to me, but who knows? And then they're still going with Ace and mid. They have Recap and Neo on jungle and mid sub, but I don't know if they'll use them. Then bot lane they brought in Yutori Moashi, which is like probably one of the best pickups you can get for that team. Like I don't know who else you can get that's as good as Yutori Moashi. That's Japanese, and they still have
Yeah.
Vivid in the bot lane.
Harechi,
So
maybe?
yeah, but I would say like Hachi's very solid, but I wouldn't say he was like a standout player. That's why I didn't
Yeah.
include him. But
He's also kind of disappeared from the scene,
that's true.
right? I don't know what
I'm
he's
surprised no
doing.
team has picked him up. I feel like
Yeah, Harechi
he could be
and
on a team
Rohan.
for sure, like middle to bottom tier, and be a solid player. But yeah, that's a
Yeah.
different discussion. But yeah,
Yeah, we'll
so
get to that later
V3 I
on.
have fourth because of their top AD and support, and the chance that Ace grows up to be a better mid laner, and Baby is like a he's Korean, so maybe he can pull off some Korean plays. And I think that would be the driving force to giving them some few wins over these other teams I didn't mention.
Yeah, that's fair. I actually have V3 at third, so I think we have a little bit of
Okay.
comfort in that we both have the same, not necessarily the same order, but at least the same top four,
Yeah,
right?
that's
You
true.
have DFM, Sengoku, Unsold Stuff V3, where
Hmm.
I have DFM, USG, V3, Sengoku, right? So the
Okay.
only difference is like how much are we riding the Sengoku hype train
Yeah.
thus far? But yeah, so Baby, as you talked about, played for AHQ, where they were a mid-tier team, but I was looking on Reddit and just kind of the internet, at least in the English internet sphere, and I could find almost nothing about him. Like nobody said anything about him on Reddit in the past year, which is probably good, right? Because it means like you're not someone that people are looking to dislike. It means you're
Mm.
probably a solid player. But one other big thing that I want to look at is my understanding is that Yutori Mayashi, quote unquote, retired from Burning Core because of wrist issues with his hands.
Mhm.
Right, like he had injured wrists, and I'm not sure how true that is because you were kind of
Yeah.
laughing at that a little bit.
Well,
Um,
it's just very. I don't know. Like, I don't have any inside information about this, but it's very weird that he would retire for wrist injury, then unretire and join a rival team. Like, that speaks very like suspicious to me. So I could talk about this because I have no inside information, but it
yeah,
seems like he retired to get out of the contract with Burning Core and then joined another team so he can unretire. So I don't
yeah,
know if he does actually have wrist injuries. Like during the pre-show, he was talking about like losing motivation, not playing so well, not wanting to play. But then he came back because he didn't want his legacy to end on Burning Core at, like as a fifth place team. So that's why he joined V3, which I think I'm amazed V3 was able to get him. Like that's a pretty
yeah.
big pickup.
It really is. I mean, entirely speculation, of course, but it is very surprising. I know somebody, I want to say it was somebody from USG, maybe it was Tussle, tweeted something to the effect of, wow, all these players retiring and then coming right on back into the scene immediately. I wonder what's going on.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, you look at Yutori Miyashi and Vivid, I've always thought of him as a very lane dominant support. Right, he's looking to get a lot of 2v2 kills, especially when he's paired with Utapona. That's part of why they work so well
Hmm.
together. Um, Yutori is not that aggressive in lane.
Yeah.
He's very
I
solid.
I always thought he wasn't such a lane dominant support. I always thought he would go even or lose lane, especially at international
Really?
competition. Like if you watch
Okay.
international competition, I feel like Dara is carrying a huge part of that like lane with Yutori Moashi. And then when Dara left, they got Gang, and Gang is also a very strong support. So it's kind of like weird that people would say, because there's a lot of games where Dara would try to cover for Yutori Moashi's weakness during the lane phase, But Yutorimashi
Hmm.
shines a lot during team fights. His positioning is like really good. He's always able to deal damage without being in a position where they can collapse on him. He's very smart in that sense. So in terms of this team, I think that's a really good style to have. You want to focus
Hmm.
on Paz. Hopefully, if Ace was a very good player, you'd want to focus on Ace. Let bot lane do its thing, and then when team fighting comes around, let Yutorimashi come in and like clean up, deal tons of damage, and not get killed. So that's why I have V3 pretty high, but not too high, because I'm not too sure about their mid and jungle. That's the only part I'm really
Yeah.
iffy about.
And I think Paz has shown historically that he used to be a rival to Evie. He's not
Hmm.
anymore. But he's still good. And looking at the other top laners that we have, the only person that I am confident to even put in the same tier as Paz is Cog right now. And
Okay. Yeah, I would
looking
agree
at
with that.
looking at that, it's like it means that assuming that none of the other top laners are suddenly going to become really good overnight, Paz should win that lane most of the time.
Yeah. What's your
Yeah.
opinion on Nap? Because I want to go to the next team, which I have is Crest Gaming at number
Ooh,
5,
okay.
and I want your opinions on Nap.
I thought he was I thought he was good. So I actually have Crest Gaming Act at number 6.
Okay.
And I think they lost a fair amount with the changes that they made because I thought Nap was pretty good. Uh, the biggest thing that was notable to me was I was looking at CGA, and obviously Luna and Art were the big selling points of this team. And for a while, I had pegged Hachamacha as the number one Japanese jungler. Partly
Yeah.
because I didn't get to see a whole lot because almost every single jungler in the LGL proper was from Korea.
Mhm.
Um, but you actually look at Hachamacha's stats, and he is lowest in kill participation and not farming all that much more than the other junglers. So it's saying to me either he's ganking a lot unsuccessfully or he's not ganking very much. And neither of those are particularly helpful to Nap, who is still doing quite well overall as a top laner. He was still performing at about the same tier as I would put Paz and Cog, and a little bit below Opperman, who I think was having a fantastic season in spring.
Yeah,
Um,
I can see that.
yeah, but I mean, Nap was doing good with less support than I think the other good top laners were having.
Mm. I think Nap. I would put Nap up there as like a really good top laner, like next to Paz and Cog. I always thought he was like really good, and he's in college right now, so that's why he's not playing for a bit.
That didn't stop
So
Winyan.
yeah, that's true. Well, Nap is a coin flip to be honest, because he doesn't practice that much, but when he has to play, he plays pretty well, and I think Hachimecha is serviceable for this team. Like when you look at the
Yeah,
team and you think of Nap and the mid laner Luna as their like carries, Hachimecha is always on the map and he's always getting deep vision in. He's trying to, he's not farming, he's not ganking, but he's letting the mid lane and top lane push a lot. So I see him as like almost like a Bengi kind of style jungler, where he's just like
interesting.
supporting the team. He's not good, he's not going to carry, but he's at least helping out so the top and mid lane can carry.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair.
But
I
this
was
team
definitely
swap
looking
is
at it in
weird.
just the stats.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. The stats. I don't really look at stats too much. I probably should, but the weirdest part is their top and support swapping roles like that. Because Achamomo was a former top lane main, but I looked at the what's it called, the
I mean, that was
Gamepedia.
2015.
Yeah, a long time ago they were Ahio's top and Achamomo's support. So I guess they were like, let's just go back to our previous roles. This will be funner. I don't know. It's a really weird like role swap to do. Because
Yeah,
then what happens when Nap comes back? Grendel's gonna go back to support? Like that doesn't make any sense. But
yeah. I mean,
who knows?
I think it was very telling for a long time that Atomomo was playing in the top lane. Because he was fine. He wasn't doing anything particularly good, but back when the streamer Raijin came on and played for
Seventh Heaven?
Seventh Heaven, you kind of saw that even against players like Achamomo, Raijin was struggling, and It's definitely a little bit worrying to me that the top lane pool seems so small in Japan. I'm not entirely
Mm,
sure why that is or where that's coming from. So the fact that he's swapping and the fact that they think Grendel, who hasn't been at top main in 3 years, is going to be able to contend with everything else is a little bit worrying to me because either he's a secret god or he's going to struggle.
yeah,
Yeah, hello, Wilhelms. Welcome to the stream.
yeah. This
And
will be a
Fiku.
very
Like,
tough call to make. Like the problem with all these other teams, like you can put them up 2 slots or down 2 slots, because every team has strengths or weaknesses. But I feel like it's only Dead Nation that has like a complete, well-rounded team. Like if any of these teams makes an upgrade in like 1 or 2 positions, I would say they would be like top tier team in Japan, like up there with
yeah,
Dead
I
Nation.
agree.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Luna and Art as players?
I thought they were pretty good. Like I don't think they were like god tier players, but they came in hot. They carried when they had to carry. Like they're good like imports. Like they rival. They're on the top end of the leaderboards in terms of like player skills. So I have nothing wrong with those keeping those 2 players.
Hmm. I thought it was interesting because they looked very consistent throughout the regular season. They were beating basically everyone and only really losing to DFM.
Hmm.
Um, but then they actually got to the best of five semifinals against Unsold Stuff Gaming,
Yeah.
and they got swept. It was not a close series at all.
Yeah, that's
So I
true.
don't know what caused that, especially seeing as how strong they had been previously. And I think that's part of like that partly informed why I thought Dasher. I think Dasher is such a good player in the LJL, is because I feel like so much of the reason why Crest Gaming Act struggled was because Dasher was outperforming Luna in almost every metric.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I was pretty high. I didn't expect Crest Gaming to do this well, and they were a lot more consistent during the regular season than USG. Like USG would drop games to like Axis, and that was kind of worrying. So I didn't predict them to beat Crest in the playoffs. I thought Crest would be a lot more solid, not lose. But then they got swept, so I don't know what happened during that playoff run. It's really
Mm,
worrying. So that's why I have them a little bit lower, because all the other teams upgraded. Crest didn't upgrade, and they have a player that can't play right now. So yeah, it's gonna be tough road for them to like get up there. But I think we're done
yeah,
with Crest. I don't think there's not much else you can say about these players. They're very like they don't really have like standout players. Everyone's very like
yeah,
solid, and that's why I have them in the middle area.
yeah. I just want to address a couple quick comments in chat. Thank you, everybody who's coming to tune in. Rogue, I like your articles posted on Reddit. Thank you. I put a lot of work into them, so I'm happy you like them. Wilhelms, do you guys live in Japan or NA? I am in California.
I live in Tokyo, Japan, so I'm in
And
Japan.
hello, Downset. I've been paying attention to your progress with. I think she goes by
Oh,
Maria now. I think
Maria.
of her as Vermilia. But either way, good luck to you, and I hope you're able to make your way into the LGL soon. That would be super cool. Anyway, so moving on to number 6, we just got done with Crest Gaming. Who do you got?
I have Rascal Jesters, which is kind of sad to put them down this low, but I don't know what else to say about this team. Like they got a better top laner, which is good. I love their top jungle. They're solid. I'm really hyped about Cog and Wyvern, but it's the mid lane that's a question mark. Zeros hasn't looked too well, and they have a new support player who's first time support. So that's going to be interesting.
Yeah. I have Rascal Jester currently sitting fifth in my
Okay.
in my setup, so pretty similar still. I think the big reason why I have Rascal Jester higher is because I do think that Cog and Wyvern, as we already talked about a little bit previously when they played against Akihabara and Count, they just destroyed the game. It wasn't even close. That said, we also saw these guys play together back in 2018 during summer when they were playing under V3 with Recap, Keymaker, and Googer, and they went 3-7.
Hmm.
Um, which is a little bit worrying, especially considering how powerful these teams can actually be. And if you look at how the rosters looked back then, I would have expected this team to do a little bit better overall, and I don't see a large reason to think that that would change at this point. But I mean, when you just have two super high variance players on the same team, sometimes you're gonna roll double sixes, and they're just going to win the game, and there's nothing anybody else can do about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And what are your thoughts on Ninja coming to Japan? Like that's what
Oh my.
I was surprised at that. Like when I heard Ninja was coming to Japan, I was like, "What? Why?" Like he didn't look good
Yeah.
on like so he played on like Team Dragon Knights, Envious, World Elite in China a long time ago. And then
Yeah.
when he came to Japan, he was on Smash It Down the Challenger Series, and that team had its own problems, but they didn't look too great. So now he's on a LGL team on Rascal Jesters. So I don't know. I have no idea how good this guy is because I haven't seen him play in a long time. And when I did see him play, he
Yeah.
didn't look too hot.
He's played, yeah, as you said, Team WE, Team Dragon Knights, Team Arena Online, Renegades, Envious, Dark Passage, HWA Gaming, Smash It Down, and now he's playing on Rascal Jester. And he's definitely not a bad player because teams keep picking him up.
Hmm.
But he has never had a split where he has done better than third since 2014, where he was playing with World Elite
Okay.
when I mean, back when EDG was at the peak of its power. So I don't know what it is about him because he seems reasonably lane dominant. He roams reasonably well. He's just an all around solid player, but he's never quite been a carry for any of these teams.
Yeah. That was my biggest question mark. And not only that, like Yuki retiring and having Alley go support, that was very like like if Yuki was support, I'd probably put this team a little bit higher because I really think Yuki did or does really well as a Japanese support. Like I think like the only players I would say is better than him would probably be like Vivid, Gang, like the Korean imports, maybe Enti as well.
Mhm.
But besides that,
I
like
think,
I think Yuki's up there.
yeah, I think he's a pretty solid. I'd also put Dinton
Yeah.
in that
Oh, okay.
category.
That's true.
Um, I think okay. So just a brief hypothetical. What do you think would change about your thoughts between Rascal Jester and Crest Gaming Act if Alley Cat was playing top for CGA and Grendel was playing support for Rascal Jester?
Uh,
Right, because both those guys
yeah,
just switched, and
that's
if you just
true.
keep them in the same role but on different teams.
I would probably put Rascal Jesters up higher, just because I think I didn't think Alicat was that great of a top laner. I don't think he had very few games where he was like performing well. I feel like he would get pretty. I don't want to say shit on, but like he would lose in lane by to like Evi, Paz, like those other good top laners like Cog. So I think if Rascal Jesters had a better support, I would be more confident putting them up higher. But it's not just the support. I don't think Zeros has had has done well in a long time. I think he's kind of like running out of
Washed up.
time. Yeah, maybe washed up. His time is short. I can see him retiring in a year or two if he doesn't turn it around.
Yeah, I remember back when I first started paying attention to the LGL, he was playing for Detonation Focus Me at the
Yeah.
time, and that was when Utapon was playing top, Paz was in the jungle, and looking back, it makes me wonder, was he ever super good? I mean, obviously he had a lot of success, but that was when he was on the best team in the region, basically. It was them
Hmm.
and at the time Rampage playing against each other, and um as you said, he hasn't had a whole lot of significant results, and he's jumped around to a bunch of different teams since then. So I definitely think that if it was paired with Grendel, I would have more expectations for this team. But as it is, I'm kind of expecting them. I mean, we both have them fairly low down on our list, and I don't see I don't see either him or Ninja having particularly outsized impacts on their success. I think they'll do fine, and then if Cog and Wyvern have a good game, you win. If Cog and Wyvern have a bad game, you lose. And I think that's basically it.
Yeah. Like, well, I have a very unpopular opinion because I don't think Zeros was good even on Dead Nation. Like I get a lot of hate for this, but I think Zeros is a very like I don't want to say KDA player, but he didn't really like carry games. He was always in the background, like doing damage. Like sometimes he's not as good as like Yutori Murashi, but like he was serviceable at the time. Because ever since he's left Dead Nation, he's always been like 5th or 6th place. Like he was on like Black Eye and they would get relegated. He was on like I believe he was also on like Burning Core. They got relegated. Like he was on whenever any team that has him, they've never done well. So it makes you wonder like, and he hasn't been good or he hasn't looked good. So I think Dead Nation just made him look good, and he was just riding that wave this whole time. But now that he's on RJ, I feel like he has to either perform or I don't think he's going to be in LJL next year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I go that far as he will not be on a team because I struggle to think of who would take his place. But I definitely think he's kind of running out of time. He needs to prove that he deserves a spot again. Otherwise, yeah, he doesn't have a whole lot of time because I think he's an older player too, isn't he?
Yeah, I think so. I
Like
think he's
just
like 25,
age-wise,
24,
25.
something like
Oh, he's
that.
only 23.
Okay.
Wait, that's younger than I am.
Okay. I mean, he's been playing for a long time. That's why you assume he's an old player. But
Yeah,
he's been around for like several years now.
yeah.
So, yeah, this team. But now
I
the
mean,
bottom
Tomcog
two
Wipers.
teams. I want
Yeah.
to talk about the bottom two because I don't know what to do with these two teams because they're both bad in different reasons. So, I have Burning Core at number 7.
Yeah, I think we
Okay.
agree there. Burning Core and then Axes at the
8.
bottom.
This
I
was
had a
hard. This is
lot.
hard.
Yeah. So I'm gonna start by talking about Axes actually before we
Okay.
talk about Burning Core. I was really excited for Axes coming into spring, not because I thought they were going to be particularly good, but it was the first time in a long time that we had seen a team that was entirely made of Japanese players,
Mm-hmm.
and their logo is super funny. I think it has a lot of character, and I thought that was really cool. They're bringing up Uinyan from the collegiate scene. I think he played for University of Tokyo.
He was also in the
Um,
challenger scene. I
okay,
believe he
yeah,
played for like one of those like Akihabara Encounter, one of those teams. He was like a sub or something.
I believe it. I don't remember. I'd have to go back and look.
Yeah.
But then you look at everybody else, and they have Isen, Gariaru, Noah, and Thinton. And we already talked. We think Thinton's a pretty good Japanese support.
I
Noah
think
has
so too.
often been on Rascal Jester and has kind of struggled. And Gariaru and Isen have never really proved themselves to be top tier talent. But this is definitely a team that I thought fans can get behind because it's an underdog team where it's all local talent and trying to develop what you can. But now I've kind of lost that because you're bringing in Smile and Lago, and it doesn't have the same like soul, it doesn't have the same
Yeah.
spirit to it. I don't have the same reason to root for them anymore.
Well, I didn't like the Axis team just because they didn't have new Japanese players. Like I'm tired of seeing
Okay.
like the same players get like chances over and over again. I would have been more hyped if they had like a bunch of like rookie Japanese players to be like, "Hey, these are going to be the stars next year." Like they're not good this year, but as time goes on, we'll develop them. We'll have a super stacked team. Then I would have been hyped. But I've
Yeah.
seen Gardier play. I think he was one of the worst mid laners in LGL last year. I think Isen, he's been a sub. He's been playing in the Challenger Series. I wasn't too high on him. I was happy Thinton was on the team. I was happy Uinyan got a chance to be on the team. Then getting Noah was like shocking to me. I'm
Yeah.
glad they got day one because day one looked so much better than Noah.
Yeah. I think it was interesting because I don't think Axes is any better than they were last split, which wasn't particularly good.
Hmm.
Uinyan has actually impressed me because he has had times where he has kind of popped off and he
Yeah.
looked like he might have been good enough to carry some games. Didn't quite get there a lot of the time. But the big thing that's interesting to me is looking at Lago coming in over Thinton because I believe Thinton retired, didn't he?
Yeah, Thinton retired, which is I don't know. Like if Thinton stayed on, day one stayed on, and they got like a Korean mid and jungle, I would be a little bit excited for this team. I would say that team would be a lot better than they are
Yeah.
now. just because they would
But
have a carry threat.
Lago split time evenly. I actually looked. There was a difference in one game. I think Ryan played like 9 and Lago played 8, something like that. It was almost
Okay.
dead even. And the team did well, but they also got thoroughly trashed again, as we already talked about, by the Cog Wyvern V3.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have. I think it's unreasonable to expect that Lago will do better than Thinton did. I definitely think Smile and Day One are upgrades over Isen and Noah, but I don't think that it's like huge upgrades. I think it's definitely a positive, but not
Mm-hmm.
enough to move. I mean, we both have them as our bottom team in the
Yeah.
league, and they're really gonna have to prove themselves to really move themselves anywhere above that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's really hard. I feel like they didn't keep the right pieces on the other team, but the other team was really hard to upgrade. Cause I mean, I'm glad they're keeping Winyan. I think he shows some promise. I mean, it was his first split last season, so he did some dumb plays here and there, but I'm not gonna hold that against him. Like, rookie players are meant to make stupid mistakes. They're meant to like int every once in a while. I'm fine with that as long as they show progress that they're improving. I'm not gonna shit on Winyan. I think it's fine to keep him on. I think he
Yeah,
deserves another chance. But Burning Core,
man.
I think Burning Core
Oh my
made the worst
gosh.
roster moves in all of LGL. I don't think any other team has downgraded that hard from
Yeah,
one season to the
this
next.
this just looks like a total mess overall. Burning
Yeah.
Core, last split they were looking very consistent. They weren't particularly good. I believe they
Hmm.
were like ended fifth,
Yeah.
but they beat every team that was lower than them in the standings, and they lost to every team that was above them in the standings. With the only exception to that, I think it was Rascal Gesture was the only team that didn't have a 0-3 or a 3-0 record against these guys. But now they lost Cog, who is, pretty solid top laner, definitely better half, and they lost Utori and
Hmm.
they lost Mocha. And instead they got Ray Farkey, Yuhi, and Medic.
Yeah.
And these are definitely known players in the scene, except for Medic, who the last time he played was for APK
Hmm.
in the Kespa Cup 2017, where they lost to Griffin, and he basically got run over by Griffin's Lehens and Viper. It's
Yeah.
hard to hold that against him because
That's
those
true.
guys are very good, but I don't know anything else about him. I can't really give him a whole lot of hype. And then Ray Farkey and Yuhi, also players have been playing in the Challenger series, but have never really proven themselves.
Hmm. Apparently on Gamepedia he was born in Saudi Arabia.
Who is that?
Medic. Like when they
Really?
interviewed him for the LGL show, he
Mhm.
answered all the questions in English, which is like really weird. I didn't like why not just Korean unless if Korean's not your native language? But then it's like so is there
That's
gonna be
super interesting.
communication issues? Like I don't know how good his Korean is. That was made me worry. Like you get a Korean that can't speak Korean, like that's gonna be really weird to do.
Yeah.
So that was a red flag. Yuki, I have no idea what he's done except for play subbing for teams and stuff, playing here and there in Challenger. So I don't know. I don't know if he's gonna be good. And then their mid laner Roki. I still think Roki's a good player. I don't think he had a good season last season, but I'll give him another chance. I think it's fair to like give someone like him like a chance to be like, okay, you can stay on, you can redeem yourself. Like give him an entire year. If he's still bad, then maybe you have to start asking questions. But I saw faith in Roki. But the one player that I don't think belongs on this team is Once. I think he's really bad. I think he's near the bottom of the table in terms of jungle ranking. Like I think
Yeah, I
Once
have
is
to
really
agree.
bad.
I think the other player that I have a lot of big questions about is Ray Farkey, because
Okay.
his only real experience was for Two-Eyed Monsters, which played in what was that? That was
The Challenger League last
2018,
year?
yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, they qualified in the league that was underneath the Challenger series, but then when they got in there, so it was Ray Farkey, Tete,
Taka?
CWN, Taka.
Mm,
Doku, No Face, and Lark playing. People subbed around a little bit, and they went 0-10.
yeah.
Um, so I think one of the big questions that I have, and looking back at it, is why do we both think that Burning Core is going to do better than Axis?
Um.
Because looking back, I'm
They.
honestly not sure.
So I thought about it, and my reasoning is because I could see more upswing for Burning Core. Axis, I think I know their peak. Like if they both played today, I think Axis would probably beat Burning Core. But I'm predicting
Mhm.
by the end of the season, hopefully these players will get better and better, and that they'll place above Axis. Whereas like I feel like Axis, you kind of know where everyone's going to be, like how good everyone is. Unless if Day
That's
One
fair.
and Garieru, Lago, Smile all of a sudden like all become like superstar players, which is like unlikely. The only question mark on Axis is Winyan. Everyone else is like, I know how good they are, so that's why I placed them lower. It's just Burning Core. I was like, oh, they could get better. They have a new
Yeah,
top laner, new AD, new support. Mid laner is solid, really good, solid. So I was like, well,
yeah.
maybe they might play better by the end of the season. I don't know. I don't know who these guys are. I do know Ray
Yeah.
Farkey is a really, really good Darius player. So if he gets Darius,
Ooh.
be excited because he's actually really good on Darius.
I'm excited to see that.
Like he was
So
playing
yeah,
in scrims against like master tier challenger like Koreans, and he got Darius, and he was legit like solo killing, 1v2ing in the top lane. So I don't think he'll ever get Darius, but if he does, I'm going to watch and I'm going to be excited.
that's gonna be hype. But yeah, looking back at both of our power rankings, we're pretty similar, right? We
Yeah.
have DFM at the top, and then we have that block: Unsold Stuff Gaming, V3 Esports, and Sengoku Gaming.
Hmm.
And you're a little bit more on the hype train than I am, but we still have those coming in 2 through 4.
Yeah.
And then what is it? Um, we switch. I wanted to say both swap and switch at the same time. Rascal Jester and Crest Gaming Act. I think they're pretty close, but Rascal Jester is definitely has the bigger variance. Like they could be
Hmm.
really good if Cogcock and Wyvern consistently do well, or they could be
Yeah.
really bad if they don't. And then at the bottom, Burning Core and Axes. So overall, our lists are actually remarkably similar considering how hard I thought it was to actually rank these teams.
Yeah. I think our top four is same, like pretty similar, and then our bottom four is pretty similar, which I was pretty surprised because I could, like, if someone said, "Oh, RJ is not sixth or like fourth," I can see, like, I wouldn't think that was too crazy. Like, you could move these teams up two, down two, and I don't think that would be too surprising. Except for Burning Core and Axis, I feel like they're pretty locked down in the
Yeah, I
bottom
don't think
half.
there's a real opportunity for them to move up unless like
Yeah.
Medic or Lagos suddenly show something they weren't expecting. Let's see. Just a quick thought. Downset says day one is so much more consistent than Noah. Yeah, I think we both can agree with that.
Yeah.
I don't have a whole lot more to say
I mean,
on that really.
I think Noah was holding back Yuki, so I mean that says a lot. I
Yeah,
don't. I think Daewon was the better choice in the end. I don't think anyone will argue that Noah should have been the starter over Daewon. It was kind of weird that they had two AD carries. Like you don't see too many teams with like a sub AD carry to swap
yeah,
back and forth. It's usually like mid or top or mostly jungle is the highest. Like where you have a sub so you can rotate it. So I was really confused
yeah.
by that. But I think
Just one
yeah,
more
there
thing.
is. Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, in Japan, he's got a great YouTube channel. Actually, if it's who I think it is, go ahead check him out on Twitter. He puts out highlights. He's able to put them out like 10 minutes after the LGL game finishes,
Oh, okay.
and he also does a couple or he's done a couple things. He recently put up a translation video for Papa Smithy, so go check him out. Click on
Oh
his
wow.
Twitch thing, say hello. But he says, "I heard Medic can speak Korean. There was no Korean translator at the LGL Week Zero interview."
Oh okay. What? Then that's kind of weird that they wouldn't have a translator for
That would be
that many
surprising to me.
Koreans. I mean,
Yeah, that
I
would be
don't doubt that he
surprising.
can't speak Korean, but it was just really weird that he would do the interview. Even the casters were like, "Wait, why is he doing the interview in English? Like, why not just do it in Korean?" Like, they were all so confused. So, I'm not too sure what that was about.
Yeah.
But
Well,
yeah,
we are pulling up fairly quickly on. We were originally planning to do this for an hour, but I'm happy to go beyond that. Um,
okay. I
I
mean, we
mean,
could talk
totally
about a
up
few
to
more
you.
things about the LGL. Go for
Yeah.
another 10, 20 minutes. But one thing I want to ask was, so the casters on the LGL show did a prediction on who would be top three, and one of the casters had like Crest Gaming up there, but all three casters, which I found surprising, they had V3 all in top three, which I thought was like really weird that they would all consider them like, because most people have variants and like, oh, this will be my third place team, but they all said like V3 would be top three because they have three players that have one LGL. So that was their reasoning, which I didn't really like. But what are your thoughts on that?
I thought it was surprising. I think that they can definitely be in contention for top three, but as we already talked about a little bit, I think that this was a very hard season to rank because so much has changed for so many different teams. And I thought it was also telling that of the three casters, Eyes, Revel, and Katsudion, one of them had Unsold Stuff, one of them had Crest Gaming Act, and one of them had Sengoku Gaming. Like,
Yeah,
even they are just very much. I don't really know like who's gonna be it. I don't think V3 is definitely a shoo-in for third place.
mm.
Because I realistically, I think on a good day, Rascal Jester should be V3 pretty consistently.
Rascal Jesters.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Unless
I can see that because of
yeah,
the strength difference.
yeah,
Like Rascal Jester has
on a
solid
good
top
day,
side.
because I think on a good day, Rascal Jester is one of the few teams I'm like, yeah, I could see these guys taking games off of DFM because again, just how snowbally their top half of the map is. Um,
Okay.
I just don't see that coming up from the V3 squad unless they have some kind of like team fighting style. And if Baby can bring a whole lot to the team, they look good, which is why we both have them in our top four. But I
Yeah.
don't think that they should have been in the top three for all three casters. I
Yeah,
thought that
I
was
didn't
surprising.
think. I wasn't really too sure why all three of them agreed that V3 would be like top three, but I expected like one caster or two, but I didn't expect all three. I thought that was pretty surprising. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think this will be exciting, at least for the top half. Unless if one of
Mhm.
these bottom teams, I mean the bottom teams, Crest and RJ can't surprise me. Like I wouldn't be surprised if one of them ends like fourth or maybe third, like depending on how the season progresses. But
Yeah, and you
yeah,
never know. Like Grendel might actually be a super beast top laner.
that's true.
Right. He hasn't played in a long time. Uh, but especially looking at everybody else, like the three that I'm like, yeah, these guys are probably gonna be your top three top laners: Evi, Paz, and Cog. And I mean, Paz has not been performing quite as well. Cog again, super high variance. And if Grendel can just, if he can consistently play at like Opperman level, suddenly CGA goes from being like this fifth or sixth team to being like second or third or fourth,
Mhm.
probably.
That's true. That's true. I'm most excited about this season is seeing Blank in the LGL because I've heard
Yes.
like he's been doing really well in scrims, so hopefully he can translate down to stage and show us some of that SKT aggressive performances. That's all I'm looking forward to. Hopefully they can take a game or two off of the nation. But
Yeah.
yeah.
I as much as I love Detonation Focus Me and they played well at the mid-season invitational, I think they need teams that can threaten to take games off of them to continue
Mhm.
growing.
I agree. I think going
So,
20-1 didn't really help them at all last season. I don't think they were like trying that hard. And when they
no,
won
and
LGL, they're like, "Oh, we won again."
we did it.
Whatever. So
Yeah.
hopefully they have to fight for it this time.
No, I am curious because last split I put out what I thought was like the all-pro team of the best player in every position, and I said that I thought if I could just pick each player in isolation as the best in their role, I had Evie, Wyvern, Dasher, Utapun, Gang. Are there any changes you would make to that?
Heavy Wyvern, Dasher, Yutapun Gang. Not really. I think Evi and Yutapon are like one of the best players in Japan, and I think Dasher's up there. Like, so you can argue Wyvern. Like, if you're just talking about mechanically skilled, then I think Wyvern is super aggressive. Always makes like the crazy mechanical plays. Tries to 1v5, 1v9 carry his team. So I think that makes perfect sense. Maybe now with blank here, you might have to think about that
Yeah.
again. But last year, I think that makes sense. And like support is really hard because you don't really see too much of the impact the support can do, unless if you start focusing on like where he's warding, what he's trying to do for vision control. So I think Gang, you can make an argument for Vivid, but I think one of those two is probably up there.
Yeah.
Maybe NT, but he didn't look too great last season in my opinion. So I think
He did fine. He did
Gang.
okay, I thought.
Yeah, he did okay, and that's like okay is not good enough, I guess. Like when you're comparing for like when you're saying oh he's the best support in the region, then I would say like who was like outstanding, who was like good, and I think Gang was the standout good player.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not too much
Yeah.
competition. It's really hard to say who'd be like runner up.
Yeah. I mean, I
Mm,
think you were probably if you're looking at like your second pro team, it would be I think Oppaman was probably the second best top laner last split. Um, hold on, let me make sure I don't say anything stupid by it not remembering everybody. Um, probably Saros as your number two, and then it would be like Odigi and Vivid. And honestly, in the jungle, I think about half of the junglers have an argument as to why they would be the second best jungler in the region. So if you said
yeah, that's
like
true.
Tussle, Steel, um, yeah, Tussle or Steel, maybe not as many. Let me go back and look before I say something stupid.
If I had to say, I would probably say Tussle would be the second best jungler.
Yeah,
I just think he does more for his team than Steel does. But
that's
that's
fair.
the problem with like a lot of these like import junglers. They're not. There's no one that's really like stands out except for like Wyvern. Wyvern really does put the team on his back and tries to carry. A lot of these like
Yeah,
junglers just play jungle, which is like fine. But when you're like an import, you should be really like smurfing on these people. Like that's why you
yeah.
waste an import slot on these people, like these players. So I don't know. Like it's really. And then you said so top lane. Who did you say for top lane? Oppaman.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
Opperman had especially in spring, he had one of the best performances I've seen him put on in a long time. He wasn't every tier, but I think he was in a tier of his own.
Okay. Yeah, I guess like the problem with like Burning Core V3 all had their own issues, so I can't really make an argument for like Cog or Paz because they had good
Hmm.
performances, but they were also on like worse teams, so they didn't look too
Yeah.
great at times. I would still
Yeah.
make an argument for Nap just because I think Nap does a lot on his own, like just the amount of pressure he brings into the top lane. And he could play like a really
Yeah.
good team fighting tank style, or if you give him like a carry champion, like a bruiser, he can do really well in top lane. So hopefully he gets back. He does well at school because apparently he's can't play because he's not doing well at school, so he has to focus on that. And USG Appleman has like family issues, so he has to like leave for a bit. So that I don't know
Mm,
how long that will take, because it could be like a
that could
week
be
or
big.
two, or it could be like half the season or like the whole season. So that's a big question mark. No one's
Yeah.
really announced when they think they're gonna come back, which
Yeah. Well,
kind of sucks.
I think that's about it on that topic. Do you have
Yeah.
any exciting thoughts about the first week? I'm looking at this schedule, and honestly, I don't think there is a single game on here that is likely to be close.
That you
I
think
mean,
will be
Crest Gaming
close?
Act, yeah, the Crest Gaming Act, if Grendel is a good top laner, could put up a fight against USG and Detonation Focus Me.
Mm-hmm.
But you have Axis versus Sengoku, Axis Rascal Jester, V3 Rascal Jester, V3 Sengoku. Actually,
Don't you
no,
think
that sounds like a
V3?
good game.
Yeah, I was about to say V3
Yeah,
Sengoku
that sounds like a
because
good
if
game.
you have them close on your list, those that would be the most
Yeah,
competitive game.
yeah. But then it's DFM Burning Core, USG Burning Core, USG CGA, Detonation CGA, and yeah, I do retract. I do think V3 Esports versus Sengoku will tell us a lot about how our power rankings are likely to go,
Mm-hmm.
but the rest of these just mostly look like blowouts, if I'm being entirely honest.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't even see a match that would be like exciting, even if it's like a bad match, because I think it's pretty obvious who's going to win. Like, if you just look at the power rankings, just go by power ranking. There's not really anyone that's really close, except maybe you could
Yeah.
argue RJ and Axis might be close, but I don't think it'll be close at all.
I hope it's not close.
Yeah,
If
I don't think
Rascal
it'll.
Jester loses that game, it's not a good
It's
sign for their
it
for
would
the
be a
season.
very rough start to the season. Maybe Rascal Justice in V3. I think the V3 matches might be interesting. They're not
Sure.
too
Yeah.
far apart in like I think in skill difference. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's about it. I think if you just
Yeah.
go by power rankings, we can pretty much predict who's gonna go where. And I guess the most exciting match for this week, I guess tomorrow, will be V3 versus Sengoku, and I'm on the Sengoku hype train, so I'll be cheering for them. I'll be looking at from the stands, looking at Blank, and hopefully he does a lot of damage. Okay, I think
Yeah.
that's
I'll
enough.
be honest. Yeah, I'll be rooting for V3 simply because I'm such a big fan of Paz in particular. I just think he's a
Okay.
very entertaining player. And just watching him pop off just always makes me have a good day. So if he does
Yeah.
that, it'll be fantastic. But I think that's all we really had planned for today.
Yeah, I think we talked a lot about these teams. Unless
Yeah.
there's anything else we want to say about these teams, I think we're
No.
pretty good.
Yeah. I'm
Hopefully,
happy to stick
then
around for a couple more minutes, see if anybody in chat has any questions they would like to ask either of us. We'll give it maybe three
okay.
minutes, see if somebody wants to
If
say
you guys have
something.
anything you want to ask, our thoughts on
Yeah.
anything, I'll be
Yeah, I
happy
think
to
we've
try to answer as much as I can.
Yeah, I think we've addressed most things that people have said in chat. So once again, thank you for coming out to this first episode of Recall Japan. We'll be doing these roughly every week as much as we can just to talk about LJL, things that have happened over the past week, any upcoming spicy rumors. Um, but yeah, if you have, and hopefully we'll get guests later on. But if you have questions, if you think you could contribute to the discussion, let us know. Hit us up on Twitter. You see, again, right below our beautiful faces, you have a little bit more information where you can find us. But tweet at us with hashtag Recall Japan, and we'll make sure to get to your questions.
Yeah, just add us, use hashtag Recall Japan, and we'll try to answer every question that we get, which hopefully will be a lot of questions. It's always nice to talk about Japan. It's nice to talk about LGL. I think it was a good
Dude,
first
it's
episode. What is your thoughts on
yeah.
this first episode?
I thought this went rather well. It is so nice. I know that Downset said, I think it was Downset. Yeah, so weird to listen to people having a conversation about the LJL in English.
Hmm.
It's honestly just being able to talk to another person about it in a language I can actually speak is so nice because
Yeah,
it receives much less attention in the West than I think it ought to.
yeah. I think. I mean, I'm not gonna tell people to watch LGL, but I think there's some interesting storylines, good players. Obviously, not as good as like Korea or like any or Europe, but I think for its own league, it has some good points, and I think hopefully we can promote it and make it more people would want to watch it and talk about it like they would any other league. So yeah.
Yeah.
Any final words? Anything you want to say before we end the show?
No, that's about it. Thanks for
All right.
watching, everyone. It's been a pleasure. We'll be back next week with a lot more information. So go ahead, go
Sounds
watch
good.
some LJL. And wait, do they use fighting in Japan? I think they do. Yeah,
Fighting? Yeah.
yeah,
Fighting.
Japan fighting.
Okay. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.